Excited to come out with a win. 5 games in 24 days, I believe it was 4 games in 19 days. So pretty brutal stretch of a schedule there, and our guys were very motivated, very energetic, and obviously our quarterback had a heck of a night against Connecticut. Knew we were going to have to throw the ball around a little bit to win the game offensively because of what they do on defense. And then obviously our run defense showed up again, as it does each and every week. This week, obviously a big challenge in terms of preparing for the Naval Academy and the issues that they present to our defense with their triple option offense. And then going on the road to play them is never easy to win a football game at their place. So our guys have been preparing, though, since Friday. We actually played a game against Connecticut Thursday night, and we were right back at practice on Friday getting ready for Navy. So I think our guys are excited for the challenge, but understand that it's a really, really formidable opponent that we're going to be playing.
Take questions for Coach Herman, please. Hit *1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. The operator will introduce you.
We'll take our first question from Dan Totoro with WakeUpCall.dt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you today?
I'm great, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. You mentioned the fact of 4 games in 19 days, I believe you said. And to look at your team, the preparation and what you've had to do, I mean, obviously you've responded well. You've won those games. But just what you can say about going into a schedule like that and how your student-athletes handled that situation.
I was never worried about the motivation and the energy level for the particular games themselves. Obviously, there was some added motivation for Connecticut. Cincinnati on the road, you're going to be excited for. I'm worried about what are the residual effects of cramming all those days of preparation into such a short amount of time. What are the residual effects in the month of October? And so just trying to be very mindful of our bodies and our energy level in these next few weeks based on what we've had to go through the first 5 weeks of the season.
We've spoken about Greg Ward Jr. before and who he is on and off the field, his leadership and his ability this season. Obviously, people can predict what they think will happen, but for him to be able to come away with victories and do what he's been doing and make it realistic, just what you can say as a coach you've seen out of him, and if he compares in any way to anybody that you've been able to be around before as a coach.
The kid's playing with an unbelievable amount of confidence right now, and he should, because he's earned it. He's prepared for this, and he's got a great coach in Major Applewhite that gets him ready to play every week, and has really turned him into a quarterback that just happens to be athletic rather than an athlete that takes snaps behind center. Major's done a great job with him over the last 21 months of accomplishing that. And, the comparison, physically, similar to Braxton Miller. Obviously, Braxton's a little bit bigger of a guy, but the dynamism of Braxton and the playmaking ability, but also with the competitive fire and, refuse to lose attitude of J.T. Barrett, kind of a combination of those two guys.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Next, we have Gene Wing with the Washington Post.
Hey, good morning, Coach. I just wanted to ask you about the Navy's defense. Particularly their passing defense, the last game against Air Force, they gave up 260 yards and 2 touchdowns to Air Force's quarterback, including a couple of deep plays. I'm wondering if that might influence at all how you your game plan? Maybe you want to take a few more shots down the field against them. Does that at all impact your game planning?
No, in fact, we on offense haven't even watched the Air Force game because it's such a different offense than what you run, and it'd be like, we didn't watch the Yukon offense versus the Navy defense either, because it doesn't do you very, very much good to watch either a triple option offense, or in Yukon's case, a two tight end offense, and how they defended it. But I do think we're throwing the ball better than we have at any point in our tenure here, and I think it's allowed us to be able to win game, against Connecticut, for instance, last year. We weren't a very good throwing team, and so we were a really good running team, but their defense is built to stop the run, and when you can't run the football and that's all you can do, then you've obviously you're a bit hamstrung. And so I think we're doing a much better job of throwing and catching the football right now, to where when teams take away the run game, either by structure or by play call, then the ability to win the game throwing the football is at least a realistic possibility for us.
Great. Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
And do you have any other questions for Coach Herman, please? Star 1 on your telephone keypad, if so. We do have one more.
And Bill Wagner with Baltimore Sun Media Group. Please go ahead.
Hey, Tom. You all have the top-ranked rushing defense in the country, but do you feel this will be your stiffest challenge to date?
Yeah, it probably won't be after this week. We were ecstatic last year when we held Navy to 112 yards, 120 yards rushing. I think it was their lowest total in a multitude of years. So you understand it's what they do, and they're going to get their rushing yards, and you can't be frustrated when they do. You've got to make sure that you play great on third down and get them off the field, because they can extend drives for a long period of time if you let them kind of chip away at you in the run game. But we are playing great run defense, but that's against conventional offenses. I think when you play a triple option offense such as Navy, basically your entire defense changes. I mean, every rule, every assignment that you've ever been taught, you've got to learn something different because of the necessity to defend the triple option. And so, we'll defend it as best we can in the run game, but I don't know that what we've done in the last 5 weeks has any bearing on what we're capable of doing against Navy, just because the scheme is so different.
On that note, is there any carryover from last year, being as it's your second straight season playing Navy and you had to prepare for the option last year? Is there some carryover with those returning players that maybe they're a little farther ahead than maybe they were last year?
Yeah, I think there is, and I think that you got to be careful, because even though you had a successful game plan last year, they've also had a year to dissect what they would have done, in hindsight to that specific look. And so I think you'll see much more multiple looks from our defense this year, just knowing that Navy has that we did defend them very well last year, and they've had a year to try to figure out how to attack the way that we lined up against them and the way that we played against them. So we're not going to sit in that same look each and every time, but it is good for our kids, our players, to have some familiarity with the triple option, especially in week 6. We had them week 12 last year, so we had a bunch of Sundays throughout the season where we worked on them for about 10, 15 minutes each Sunday, where this year we've only, with 2 Thursday night games, we've only had a couple Sundays to work on Navy, but the carryover from last year hopefully helps.